Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Entertainment of Excellence, the podcast where we talk about films, TV, all of it. Hi, I'm Ollie.
I'm Thom.
And I'm Ben.
Today we're going to be talking about the 2008 film Hunger. This will contain spoilers.
Yeah, that sounds good. So this film, Hunger 2008, I mean, it doesn't have 2008 in the title. I don't know why I just said 2008, but it's like an exploration of the life of the IRA prisoners in 1981 and the events leading up to and including the hunger strike led by Bobby Sands. So it kind of... I saw someone that broke it down into 3 parts, which is like the first one is just like an introduction to the prison system. So you meet the prison officer, and you also see someone get incarcerated in that whole process, and then just kind of like their lives and the no wash and blanket protest. Then it moves into a section which is like a 25-minute. Well, the scene's 25 minutes long, but in that 25 minutes, there's a 17-minute unbroken long shot of Bobby Sands and a priest discussing doing the hunger strike, and Bobby saying why he's going to do it, and the priest trying to tell him to not do it. And then after that is the hunger strike and the eventual death of Bobby Sands. So that's the structure that the film follows.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
It is indeed correct.
Ben watched it the most recently, so he's got it most fresh in his mind.
Oh, yes. Always last to the party as usual. Yeah.
So the way that this film does storytelling is that there's very little dialogue apart from that middle section. With the... is it Father Dominic, I think he's called?
Yeah. Bobby.
Cool. And the rest of it is, it's a very visual film, which for some of the visuals it shows may not be very appealing for some people, but they make some very nice swirls out of their feces on the wall. Don't you think?
Pretty artistic.
Did you like a spiral? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it tries to show it's a fairly balanced take on the Troubles, or the sides. It just kind of shows you how things were.
Yeah.
So obviously some awful things happen to the prisoners. There's literally a section which I think is known as the brutality scene, where they got riot police to come in and then they just shove prisoners through, have the riot police beat them on the floor, and then they just check up their rectum and mouths. And there's also a scene where Bobby Sands is forcefully cut and washed. His hair's cut and he's washed. That's where you find out why the prison officer at the start has the bloody knuckles, because he's hit him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit regretful about the whole process and obvious discrimination against the Catholics, but then because there's that scene when you were mentioning with the riot police, there's that really beautiful cinematography where on one side you see one of the officers in tears, and then the other side there's a animalistic treatment of the prisoners.
Yeah, and that is quite important, because the same officer at the start was one that had started roaring when they were beating their shields.
Yeah.
So I think what that was trying to show is that although you can have good people in these kind of in that police force at the time, or the prison guards, the system was still bad. It was quite corrupt, and obviously just Ben, you can't post that in the. Sorry. You can't post that in the middle of me talking about police brutality. Come on. Ben just put in the chat Michael the last Fassbender.
You put joking as well.
So, yeah, going back, I think it's so that you can have good people, but it's the system is corrupt and kind of drives these officers to like look down on the prisoners. I mean, the way they've seen them is that some naked man has been thrust into a corridor, and you know that you can't really empathize with someone that's just being beaten.
Yeah.
So that was quite a good. Yeah, that was a good shot.
But I mean,
there are many good shots.
There are. But one of the main themes it explores is like they perceive themselves as like political prisoners, but in the way that they're treated like just terrorists, just as normal criminals, and that it's not really concerned with their motives, whether it's against like a corrupt legislation or whatever. So that was definitely something that was quite prominent during the Troubles with like the Diplock courts and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously you get like you hear a few speeches by Thatcher throughout the film, and that reinforces that idea that they are just criminals. Doesn't matter that they've got like genuine political aims.
Yeah, I think it does show like quite well why they are like, you know, part of the IRA or despise the British, because Thatcher did kind of like speak really low down on them. They're treated very badly by the prison system, because obviously you have to remember that there were a lot of events that were quite bad in the Troubles, which drove people to terrorism, although terrorism obviously wasn't the right thing to do. So there was like the Bloody Sunday where the police just shot unarmed civilians without a trial. That's like, you know, one of the worst things that happened in the Troubles. But then the people in like the IRA and these paramilitary terrorist organizations also did awful things. So halfway through the film you see the prison officer when he's going to visit his sick mother, someone just comes in and shoots him.
Yeah, I
found
found
that scene stuck out because it just seemed to be like, it seemed like it had a bit of a different tone, but then straight away someone just comes in and shoots it and disrupts everything.
Especially the scene really stood out to me, given the fact that the prison officer was the first person you saw in the film. The opening shots were him, you know, getting up and going to work, and the fact that, well, to begin with, you kind of assumed he'd be like either the main character or a significant character. So when he just gets completely shot, you kind of have to reevaluate what's going on here. And I think it was sort of from that point on that the story really became about Bobby Sands and his hunger protests.
Yeah. Something that I didn't particularly like about that was the fact that earlier on in the film you sort of saw a universal suffering and humiliation by all of the prisoners, and then there's obviously the scene with Bobby and the priest where he's planning out the hunger strike, and he mentions, I think he said they've got something like 75 people signed up to it, and how many actually died in it? Was it about another?
They said
9?
a further 9, I think.
Yeah.
So that is quite a lot.
But they didn't really. I felt that they didn't really show that at all. Like it just looked like he was the only one suffering, which I kind of get. The priest was sort of confronting him, saying, "Is this suicide?" And he was arguing that no, it's murder because of the corruption of this system. But I felt it would have been quite nice to sort of see some of the other prisoners experiencing the hunger strike, because I felt the second half of the film was very much focused on him.
Yeah, it did seem very isolated.
There were 13 others that started refusing food, but they were taken off the hunger strike because of either medical reasons or their families basically stopped them. So because you were told like it was 2 weeks between each one starting, that's why I assumed at first that from him starting the strike to death it was about 2 weeks. So when it said 66 days, I was quite surprised, because one, I didn't think you could last that long without food, but that is how long it was, so that's obviously true. And two, because we just hadn't seen anyone else start a hunger strike. It seemed very much like his prison cell had been made into a hospital bed.
Yeah.
So they were just coming to visit him.
Because that last section, it seemed to rush over a bit, but at the same time, I wouldn't really. It was already painful enough. I wouldn't have really wanted to see it that much longer, like the actual hunger strike itself.
Yeah.
I think it's just because I went in thinking the whole film was like the hunger strike.
Yeah.
So I felt that the hunger strike section was actually quite short. I mean, it is called Hunger, so it's not really unfair to think it would be about the hunger strike.
I mean, I thought it was about famine, but I even knew anything
I
about
just
it.
didn't know what it was about.
Yeah. No, I knew it was about a hunger strike. So yeah, I was surprised that it took quite a long time. But it was interesting because when it said no wash and blanket strike, like it took me quite a while to realise that blanket strike meant that's why they were only wearing a blanket. I thought that was just the treatment of them. I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then smearing the wall in feces, at first I thought that his cellmate was insane, but no, that's also part of the no wash strike. And it does have like quite a lot of, it's like disgusting imagery, but it can be seen as like finding beauty in the horror of stuff. So like making the kind of spiral out of his own feces. It's like making art out of, I don't know, poo.
Yeah.
But I mean,
because obviously like the hunger strike bit is quite awful to watch, but it is kind of like beautiful in a way. It's obviously supposed to be showing his martyrdom and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say some of like the especially visceral bits, and like the terrible conditions are almost self-inflicted. But I guess that's like the protest, and they're like acting as the catalyst. It's really the conditions within the prison in the first place, or just wider government and Ireland that have caused that.
Yeah. Because I think, is it just political status? Does it decrease your sentences a bit, or is it just you treated differently?
I think
I don't actually know.
I think it's just you treated differently.
Yeah. Because obviously they wanted civilian clothes.
Yeah. I suppose another part of it would have been the fact that these people are in there because of how they believe in their cause, and they've taken it like to the extreme, but because they really do believe in it, and just being treated as a common criminal kind of devalues what they view as their own sacrifice. I suppose it's just like you did this thing for a cause, and you're just being punished with no recognition to the cause, really.
Yeah, and that's what like the Conservative government's just especially trying to do in like reducing them being exempt from like the regular life of prisoners and just treating them like they're regular prisoners and criminals.
Yeah. They got like the concessions they wanted, but were never actually formally called political prisoners. It said that at the end, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I read it afterwards too. So, there's a kind of debate about whether it actually worked. So, like, they got some concessions but weren't regarded as political prisoners, and obviously, in the end, Ireland wasn't united. Whether you agree with that or not, I don't know enough to even begin to talk about that. So, I guess one of the questions is like, was the hunger strike worth it?
Yeah.
Because like 10 people died, and that's the main conflict of that discussion with the priest, really, which is why that is such a good scene. Which apparently Michael Fassbender and I think it's Liam Cunningham. I know it's Davos Seaworth, but I think it's Liam Cunningham is his name. But they practice that about like 12 to 15 times a day. Yeah, it's Liam Cunningham in their room, and then they managed to do it in 4 takes on the actual day.
Yeah, because I mean, he's like saying that in the original hunger strike they didn't really have the long-term goal of starving themselves to death, and then he's saying like, what is the point in it? It's going to be futile if after you die you don't leave an impact, and even if you do, I mean, I read a little bit about like the long-term reputation of him and how like different groups perceived him.
Yeah.
And like obviously some saw him as a hero, but then others said it was kind of pointless, the effort he put in.
Yeah, and you can, like his hunger strike did cause other people to die. So when he says it's murder, like you could also see as it's him that drove them to do it. So could he have responsibility for their deaths? Which is obviously what the priest was going for, you know. And then he says, well, it wouldn't matter anyway because you'd be dead first.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was just trying to show that because Bobby Sands, he was in prison and couldn't really do much else for what he believed in. He felt there wasn't really much point in living. I think that is one of the things it was going for. Like, if you take away all of someone's like ideals and their chance to do anything for them, then they don't really see much point in living. Which his main reason was his son, but we never really see him because was it actually him that he like hallucinates at the end of his bed, or was it a younger him? Because I swear it was the exact same person that was in his like, yeah.
I think
so. It's weird that he doesn't really think about his son. I don't know what.
Yeah, because I think was that like meant to be the story he was saying about how they found the dying horse. And
yeah, that's what the
they were blamed. Is that what it's meant to be at the end?
That's what I thought it was. I can't. I mean, because you could see that it was him that he was putting out of his misery.
Yeah,
I assume because that. What's interesting is that scene wasn't originally going to be in the film. Steve Mcqueen originally envisioned it as a dialogue-free film. I mean, there are some pieces of dialogue in the other scenes, but that's how he thought originally. But then, I can't remember exactly what it was. Someone persuaded him into getting some kind of. I think it was to make the plot more clear, and that's what became that middle scene.
Yeah.
And Steve McQueen, I've not actually seen any of the other films. I know that 12 Years a Slave is like really famous and it's supposed to be very good, but I've just never watched it. And I think I will definitely look into it after this, because at first when I saw the name Steve McQueen, like I think I knew that there was also the director Steve McQueen, but I just thought of like 60s Great Escape and Bullet actor Steve McQueen, so I got confused because I was like, why would he ever make this film? But it makes sense.
You definitely have to be in the right frame of mind to watch a film like this, though.
Yeah, so it has really similar vibes to Requiem for a Dream, which I think I've recommended on the podcast before, where that is like also a constant building climax towards an inevitable end, and that's even more like quite disgusting to watch, and very visual, although there's a lot more dialogue in that. So that I've kind of seen this before, but I think it seemed very unique to go with like a really visual style, and it's what made it feel more real.
Yeah.
Just seeing all these like shots. One thing I will say is that the 3-minute shot of that cleaner like brushing up urine was a bit long.
Yeah, it was a bit reminiscent of the tunnel scene in Stalker.
Yeah.
It's a cool
Yeah.
concept and very visually not stunning, but memorable. But it just went on for a bit too long, and that's at 1.25 times speed.
So I know some people really liked that, but yeah, that was a bit much for me, and I can see why some people say that it's too pretentious and boring, but I don't think I'd ever call it boring.
No,
I think even though there's not a real plot, it's quite, I don't know, it was like watching a Louis Theroux documentary or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not boring. I mean, for a start, it's quite a short film, and
yeah,
obviously, like that, the really long scenes, like the discussion between him and the priest, which we talked about, that is so engrossing. It didn't seem like it last. It seemed like it only lasted maybe about 5 minutes, which is obviously still a long time, but um, it's almost, I don't know. It seems too serious and political to ever be boring.
yeah.
And obviously because it's like based on real events.
Yeah.
And this is actually Steve McQueen's like first feature film, so he's done a lot of. I think he's known to be quite like arty, so he's done a lot of arty like short films. So it makes sense that he'd do like this visual style and everything, and I think it really pays off to have a kind of more unique director doing this, because it could easily be like another history biopic and it's like just boring.
Yeah.
But no, I think he handled it really well, which is why I want to see more stuff by him. I think he's not actually done that many feature films, but the ones he have done are supposed to be really good. I think it's only 4 actually. Yeah, he did Hunger, Shame, 12 Years a Slave, and Widows. So I'm definitely going to look into more by him.
Yeah. What else is there to talk about? Let me think.
What I think it wouldn't have worked without like the editing, like to put it together. Like obviously you have to be able to. Editing is also about it, like creates the pacing and the ordering and for everything, and it's all very deliberate. Like which shots are in. When something is one shot, it's left there. So I think it's almost like minimal editing, but it's really effective in what it does.
Because there's the bit at the end where you see him as a child, that it kind of like flashes between him as a child and then him now, and like how desperate he is, and then his parents coming to visit and stuff.
Yeah. And also the montage of the hunger strike, that was good, of all the plates of food coming in, and then he'd never ate any of them, but you could see the water jug kind of fluctuating, so he was drinking, which is how he managed to survive 66 days. So that was really good, and it helps that Michael Fassbender did actually go on like it was medically controlled diet to get him really skinny. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, he looks like he's actually dead. Like you could see like his cheekbones sticking out, and he'd gone grey. I was like, oh, hope he's all right.
What did you think of the use of music in this? Because it was quite minimal.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's barely any music, and I think that works. Like, I can't actually think of any instances of music. There's a lot of silence.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Any cacophonous noise is caused by people.
Yeah, the use of sound in the film was really interesting, because not only did it, because obviously most of it wasn't filled with dialogue. The majority of the dialogue was in the 17-minute single shot, between Bobby and the priest. But especially I noticed it mainly in around the riot police scene, where it would just completely go from one extreme to the other. It would be a very loud, and it's visual as well, loud, busy scene to something just completely calm and silent. And then also towards the start of the film, a lot of the shots around the prison guard, they were all silent in terms of dialogue, but they weren't silent in terms of background noise. So it was just nice to have, the scene when he's smoking and it's snowing outside. It would just cut from absolute silence indoors to just the sound of the snow and the wind, and then cut back, which, I don't know, it kind of emphasizes the fact there's no dialogue a bit more, because you're obviously trying to listen to some more of what's going on in the background. I just found that very effective, the way it was. It used silence effectively, but didn't necessarily use a lack of noise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The way it kind of opposed, juxtaposed.
I think you can do like silence in a bad way, where it would have been helped with music, but yeah, I think they did it well. I think that there was probably music over the montage, but I actually can't remember. But yeah, it didn't feel like I never felt like, why isn't there any music? This is a bit weird.
Yeah, because it felt like you were there, especially in the really long shot scenes. And then I quite liked how the juxtaposition between obviously the really extended scene with the priest and Bobby, but then after that it's quite a close-up shot, like underneath where he's smoking. Quite a nice contrast, but obviously they were both. Well, I think that's when he's actually telling that story, maybe.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that bit as when, like, there was no way he was going to budge on the idea of a hunger strike. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
So it had gone from the two of them talking about it, and then towards the end, it was, you could only see him, and that was where I was like, oh, so his side's obviously won.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a very effective shot, and it just reminded me that shots of things can be really deliberate in what they show, and specifically don't show. And it's and it reminded me that Steve Mcqueen obviously is a visual director and has this history and more artistic stuff. Indeed. We've not really talked about the performances, actually.
Oh yes. No.
Probably because I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Okay, so they do all speak in quite a heavy Northern Irish dialect, so I had to concentrate quite hard, but I understood most of it. Luckily, definitely the middle scene, that was fine, but when there was some murmurings early on, I remember I did struggle to understand at first, so I had to start concentrating. I know Ollie had the subtitles on, and so did Ben, but Ben is half Northern Irish, so he's fine.
Yeah, I have the subtitles on for everything, to be fair.
Yeah.
I heard it for about 2 minutes, and I was just like, no.
The subtitles are very helpful when it gets to parts like square brackets, heavy breathing. I definitely needed that translated for me.
Yeah.
I just feel sometimes with subtitles, even though I could understand, not particularly in this film, but just in general, when I can understand what they're saying, but I find myself reading the subtitles rather than actually looking at the cinematography or the actual shots themselves.
Yeah, that's why I never have them on usually.
To be fair, I actually find it the opposite. I find it like I need to pay less attention to what they're saying because it's there. I can give more attention to the cinematography. Which seems kind of
That's interesting.
counterintuitive if you're looking at the bottom of the screen, but somehow it works.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Cool. If only I could know all languages, and then I'd never have to watch a film with subtitles.
If only
That
you
would
knew
be a big win.
If only you knew the language of Northern Irish.
I think there was actually in the visiting scene with, like, the guy that we first see get imprisoned when he's talking to his partner.
I think
they were like really quiet, so I don't think I actually understood anything they said.
Yeah, there were parts they were talking
okay,
in
they're
Gaelic.
passing notes. I get it. Cool.
I hate it when the Netflix subtitles they seem to be worse than lots of other ones on like DVDs or whatever. But it's just like speaking in Gaelic. Yeah, but I'd like to know what they're saying in Gaelic.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Could it not just put like brackets in Gaelic and then what they're saying translated?
Yeah, it always stresses me out. It stresses me out that there's like different, especially for foreign stuff, there's like different subtitles with different translations. Because I heard for like, I can't remember what it was, but I remember one thing I watched. Some people said that like Netflix's translation ruins this subplot or something. Like you never catch the subplot because of the translation. And ever since I heard that, I'm so stressed that anything I watch with subtitles is gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm not gonna listen to the dubs though.
No.
Dubs are just cringy. It just sits wrong with me.
We learned an interesting fact last week. Speaking of subtitles, about what the Portuguese for cheeseburger is.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's just X burger.
Yeah.
Speaking of Portuguese, we seem to have, according to our analytics, a lot of Portuguese. I'm not going to say fans, but listeners, because one of our top searches that drives us to our videos is essentially Kangaroo Jack Portuguese subtitles, and then it's like mile 22
really?
Portuguese subtitles. I'll put a screenshot on later. That's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know why Portuguese rather than, I don't know, even Spanish. Because there are a lot more Spanish speakers. We just got a really niche market for the Kangaroo Jack Portuguese fans.
Bit of a tangent about subtitles there.
I mean,
yeah,
it's not quite that good by our standards. We need to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Thom, have you watched the Clone Wars?
I've seen the first 2 seasons.
Right, watch the Clone Wars. Can't believe you're just ignoring what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'll
make sure to watch the Clone Wars.
Thank you. That would be much appreciated.
It's a hunger.
I'm gonna go. Are you gonna go to hunger strike until I watch the Clone Wars?
Yeah. Doesn't matter if I die because it's not suicide.
I definitely feel this film isn't for everyone, and you have to sort of stick with it. But
yeah,
it's very emotionally charged, and it does have some really cool moments, especially with like the cinematography. I thought that was really a standout point of it.
Yeah, everything is so deliberate, like we've said, and like there's so many shots I'm going to remember of like that slow pan around the first time you see a cell covered in feces, and then it goes down into the corner where there's like a pile of food writhing with maggots.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And then you see his reaction, and he's like, "Is this the right choice?" But
yeah.
Did I do the right thing?
And I remember them making the dams to get the best urine projection. I wonder what the best angle is to get it the furthest.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't notice that there was feces they were putting on the wall to begin with. I thought it was just like mashed up food.
Yeah.
I mean, technically,
I thought it could be at first, but then I was like, I think I was just in denial.
Yeah, it's by no means a fun film. It's not something you'd watch for I don't know.
Oh, guys, I couldn't get a ticket. I couldn't get tickets for Endgame, so I got. Thought we'd watch this instead.
It's all right. We'll just get out some drinks, have a good time, and then immediately goes
No,
into...
it's not. But I think it is. It is really good. It's made me, realize the weight of the troubles more, and also just is great filmmaking. I definitely want to look at more Steve Mcqueen stuff.
Yeah.
And there's probably loads of stuff that we just maybe don't know enough about the film to talk about, or the strikes, but it's just, I don't know, it's just the way it presents everything in what feels like an honest way. It just shows that when they get their civilian clothes, it looks like clown costumes or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. A very good debut.
It is a good debut. I thought you were talking about the clothes being good debut of civilian clothes.
Yeah.
I think that the main criticisms of it are going to be if people think it's not harsh enough on one side or the other, or if people think it's too pretentious and too grim. But I quite liked the whole style of it being really grim.
Yeah, it was much more realistic than idealistic.
Yeah, one of the Metascore reviews I saw was oh, here it is. It's trite, grim, and provocative. I'm yeah, that's what makes it good. But they gave it a 50 out of 100. Rip. But this is... You two need to definitely watch Requiem for a Dream if you like this. Just saying.
Just once, though.
Just once. You won't want to watch it again.
Is that about drugs?
It's kind of more broad, and it's just addiction.
I think you recommended it, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
If you want to see more of our recommendations, you can go to entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com and sign up for our mailing list, and we'll send you the recommendations master list with all of our recommendations we've ever done. That's probably outdated by now.
That's crazy. It is a bit.
Yeah.
Should we give ratings, or is there anything more you want to talk about?
No,
not really. I can't be much.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Well, if you want to follow along with us doing our ratings, you can go to entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com, and we've got a page with all of our all of our episodes in order. So,
yeah,
I liked it. The fact that I wouldn't watch it again brings it down a little, but that doesn't take away from the fact it is a really good film.
Yeah, Stalker is really near the top, especially for me. But I don't know if that's necessarily something I'd be quick to be rewatching.
Yeah.
Maybe for different reasons, though.
I think, no pun intended, I'm going to compare it a bit to The Irishman. It's a joke. Purely because, I don't know, I rated The Irishman quite low, actually.
Yeah.
Ollie gave it 7.8, you gave it 7.6. Well, I enjoyed this more than The Irishman, so that messes things up slightly. I'm gonna go... I'll give Upgrade 7.7. I think I'll go a 7.5. Because I enjoyed it. Cool. It was really good filmmaking. I just... first of all, I wouldn't watch it again, and second of all, it's just a little rough around the edges in some parts. So, for example, the urine cleaning scene that goes on a bit too long, and just a couple of nitpicks like that which could bring it down a little bit. And also, I just didn't think it was like great in like the same level as, say, I'm Thinking of Ending Things or Being John Malkovich. Do we just really like Charlie Kaufman?
He's a lad.
We need to do another one of his films.
Yeah, we'll get it to number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7.5. I'll stop talking.
I want to hear Ollie's next.
Oh, I was going to listen to yours and then give it
Oh,
lower,
no.
like Fear and Loathing. But I'll go first.
Yeah.
I probably think it deserves a bit higher than that, in my opinion. But I'm just trying to work out where to put it. I'm probably going to go 7.7.
Okay. This is me like going, ooh.
You're gonna give it a 10 or a 1?
I think I'm gonna give it an 8.
Ooh.
It's a bit saucy. I know. I'm going back to being the good cop. Yeah, I mean, I just think it was. Yeah, I think it was really good filmmaking, and it taught me a lot about something that I never knew happened. I don't really know much about, but it's obviously really important. And right now, I feel like I don't want to watch it again, not because it was boring or dull, but just because it handles like the subject matter with such like visceral honesty. But I feel like I might actually end up watching it again. I did like, in a weird way, like really enjoy like the atmosphere, and I think it just showed everything really well. And the shots were obviously deliberate. Like obviously the 3-minute cleaner shot was on purpose. Maybe that's like the only criticism I have, and it wasn't like I was there screaming at it, going like. But yeah, I really liked it. And I think like all the performances were great, and it just felt like everything was deliberate. That's why I've got it quite high. You know, nothing felt out of place. So yeah, there you go. Screw you. And if you think I rated it too high, screw you.
I hate you.
If you think I rated it too high, I won't watch the Clone Wars.
I'm gonna watch the
rated it
Clone
too
Wars.
There you go. Ollie thinks I rated it too low, so it's fine.
That's why I gave it 3 points lower.
The lower you do it, the higher Thom will do it.
Oh. Really? I don't think so.
Neither do I.
Is that a conspiracy?
Yeah, I was just looking at. Oh, did I give Blade Runner the lowest? What?
Dude. Wait, so what's the highest thing you've rated? Is it?
What did I give the highest? I gave Being John Malkovich 0.1 more. I gave that an 8.4.
That's fair.
It's probably Being John Malkovich is probably my highest.
Yeah, because you gave. I'm thinking.
Let's not give it overall then.
This one.
Calculator time.
I've got it. It's 7.7.
What did you give? 7.5.
Yeah.
It's what?
7.7.
Cringe.
Is that the second 7.7 ever?
No way.
It's incredible.
Is it something that isn't a 7.25?
One day we'll have something that isn't a 7. And you know what
I tried. I gave it something that wasn't a 7. Come on, guys.
You want us to do a film that isn't a 7? Send us one in. DM us on Twitter or Instagram. We use the contact us form on our website, and we will do your film, because no one ever sends us anything, and we're sad.
Could be worse.
Talking of sending us things. Submission spotlight.
Tom,
I'm so proud of
2
you.
weeks in a row.
I'm on the ball
I'm
now.
so proud of you. I'm gonna cry.
You're redeeming yourself
Thank you.
for your many, many mistakes.
You're back to special guest.
Thank you.
No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
You need to do it another
For
2
now.
weeks for that. You need to have a full month of it. Anyway, after all that, we don't have anything this week. So if you're a creator or want your work reviewed, if you do short films, music, stories, books, whatever, we would love to review, and we would also love to have you on the podcast to talk about it, which doesn't have to be live. We can just do a very quick interview with you whenever's most convenient. We'll just go over it, dedicate a 10-minute segment to it, give you some constructive criticism, tell you what we liked, and we'll link to your page in the description and stuff. Just a cool way to get to know more like indie work that doesn't necessarily have the same platform as lots of other things, so we'd love to help you out with that. So send it in. You can contact us via the contact us form on our website, or DM us on Twitter and Instagram, both are at EOV Podcast. Cool. Next up, we've got recommendations.
Time for recommendations.
It is time for recommendations.
Damn.
Probably.
Do you want to go first?
Me? Alright then. Yeah, I watched... I'm trying to beat everyone on watching the most top 250 IMDb films.
What do you mean try? You're like 50 films ahead.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're like on 96 films out of 250.
Yeah, no, actually, now I'm on 98, so...
I'm on 52. I'm catching up.
Ooh.
How do you actually have
You're
the
catching
time
a
for all
five.
of this?
It says the person that watches 50 hours of a TV show in one day. I don't know how you do it.
One day? If I could do that, I'd be impressed. No, it was 1 week.
Come on, one film like every other day is fine. Anyway, I watched Warrior, which is like an MMA film with Tom Hardy in, and I did think it was like really good. I know a lot of people find it like really emotional, but it didn't hit me as hard as like some other films. And to be honest, I thought that like some of the dialogue scenes I didn't care too much for, but when it got to the actual MMA fighting, I was like, oh, this is some high impact stuff. Like that, they were the most emotional parts. And there's also a lot of like metaphorical stuff to do with Moby Dick and things, and I'm surprised that it seems to be quite overlooked. So yeah, Warrior is definitely a film worth watching. And I also watched LA Confidential, which was very good. That's like follows. It's like 50s LA, and it's like corruption in the police force and how they like talk to gossip magazines and stuff. It's really interesting, and it's got quite a unique style. And yeah, that's a really good watch as well. So watch that. And final thing, we were talking about subtitles before. Well, I watched The Hunt, which is, I think it's a Denmark film. It's got Mads Mikkelsen in, and it's basically about a guy that gets falsely accused of being a paedophile, and like how the townsfolk end up treating him. And it's quite like a terrifying film, especially if you're a man, to think of like what could happen to you if just one person tells a lie. So that is a really good film and has some nice use of a color palette. Pretty cool. So if you like some colors, if you like colors, watch The Hunt. That's it.
Damn.
If you don't like colours,
then you should probably watch Stalker, because wasn't that in black and white? Was Stalker in black and white?
It would
no.
It
just really.
It kind of changed colours. Parts of it was in black and white, but other parts were in like sort of washed out colour.
I think when they were in the zone, it was in colour, but then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember now. If you don't like colours, watch Roma or Schindler's List.
Watch the Robot Monster.
Robot Monster, yeah.
He said
or
Roma.
Mank, that's coming out.
Roman.
Oh yeah. Ben,
Any other recommendations?
No, I don't. you've had your share of Ben recommendations for this month.
No. Damn it.
I've got a recommendation. It's called A Beautiful Mind. And
Oh.
what?
Top 250. Top 250
Yeah.
alert.
Yeah. It's basically about a mathematician / economist called John Nash, who, well, I felt like the first hour was like really fast paced and rushed. Like it seemed to just go through the first, I don't know, like 30, 40 years of his life in that space of time. But then there's like a twist quite early on where you realise that that's deliberate and there's a reason for that. I won't give it away, but it's basically exploring. It's less about like obviously the advancements he made in things like game theory and stuff. It's more about his like mental illnesses because he was schizophrenic and like the impact that has on his relationship and just his life in general. And it's definitely quite an emotional film. It basically goes through his whole life, so it like ends. Well, it came out. I think he only died in 2015, so like the ending is when he's an old man. But yeah, I can definitely see why it's highly rated because it does do some really original concepts which have been repeated since. But it's really good.
Groovy.
Cool.
I also watched a few more on the top 250.
What else did you watch?
Terminator.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched Spirited Away as well, which was cool.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you watched that. A past recommendation.
Wow.
Yeah.
I still need to watch Spirited Away.
You do?
I need to watch a lot of the stuff on the top 250.
Well, you've now got 4 more things you need to watch.
Well, tell you what, whoever has the most of the films watched in the top 250 by episode 50 gets some sort of undecided prize.
Do you really want to do that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
How about the most new films?
What? How? No, no. I'm too scared that Ollie will beat me.
What do you win?
Some undecided prize.
Ooh.
A pat on the back. Socially distanced, of course.
Yes.
Social distance pat on the back.
Please.
Sounds good.
You get Slenderman to take you.
Take me, Slenderman.
For any reason you're listening to this episode, maybe you should go to entertainmentofexcellence.weebly.com/bonjour. There's a little thank you gift for listening this far into the episode.
Yeah.
You'll like what you see. And with that, let's close it up.
That's how we're finishing this off. Wow.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Oh,
Alright, see.
We need to see what we're... No, Ben!
Oh no! I'm as bad as Thom.
How dare you.
Can't believe myself.
So next week, we are going to be watching Room.
The Room?
Nice. It's in the top 250.
Whoa!
Room from 2015.
Not the Tommy Wiseau one.
Yeah.
The joke.
No, this is just Room.
Oh yeah.
Room.
Is this like a parody of The Room?
No.
No.
It's got nothing to do with The Room.
That's so sad.
Apart from its name.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening, and alright, see you.
See ya.
Alright, see ya.
No.
that's it to do.